Hello and welcome to the Pleasurepreneur podcast. This podcast will help you create what you desire in your business with pleasure. Whether that be calling in your ideal clients, making more money, or creating a balanced business-life blend. I'm your host, Regan Fig, pleasure and business coach, published author of A Mother's Pleasure, wife and mama to 3 little wildlings. However you're choosing to listen to this podcast, ask yourself, how can I make this more pleasurable? And do just that. I acknowledge the custodians of the land on which this podcast is recorded and produced, the Wadi Wadi people of Dharawal land. Now, let's proceed with pleasure. Hello and welcome to today's 10-minute mini training. This is a short episode where you get to take some really practical, tangible practices, prompts, or processes with you to play with and implement in your business and life to make your business and life so much more pleasurable and help you achieve the results that you desire. Today, we are talking the mindset must-haves for launching. So I'm going to jump in with one of my top mindset must-haves for being in a launch period, because I have seen so many of my clients, and this is me included, where we waste so much time and energy and attention second guessing ourselves, doubting ourselves, going forwards and backwards in our launch, like gauging the success of the launch on the feedback we're receiving or the externally validating metrics such as sales or engaged conversations. And yes, those externally validating metrics are great in the sense that obviously if someone's asking you about it, they're interested. But that's not to say that if no one is asking about it in that first 48 hours, that no one is interested. Right? I have seen myself and others create codependency with our community when it comes to launching. And this idea that there is a certain rate at which we enroll people when it's our launch. Now, this could be a launch for a group program. It could be a focused launch for a one-on-one coaching or mentoring package. It could also be a launch for a freebie. Maybe you're going to do a free masterclass. I often do free masterclasses. So imagining you are in your next launch, this is the mindset must-have that I want you to have, because if you don't have this mindset, you will be constantly looking for clues that your launch is working, in quotations, whatever that means for you, that your launch is successful, again, quotations, whatever that means for you. And when we do that, we're putting all of that energy and responsibility, we're taking it out of our control and putting it on our community, on our future clients, on our followers, on the people in our mailing list, right? And that, if we can't feel certain about the value of our offer that we are launching, our community, our listeners, our readers, our followers, our potential, future clients are not going to feel safe. Your certainty creates their safety. And when they feel safe, that's when they will trust you enough to enroll or to buy. But I want you to be able to have this mindset. And it is going to take some time, but it might not. So when it comes to mindset, ultimately we have ingrained neural pathways. Some of them are really deeply ingrained. So if you've been conditioned to believe something from a really young age and you have constantly had that reinforced over your entire life, obviously that is going to be a more deeply ingrained neural pathway, right? It's going to be a belief or a thought that will be like a default belief or thought. You're not even consciously thinking it. You just believe it to be truth, and it kind of breezes into your subconscious and breezes out and you don't even notice it, right? Whereas things that are not deeply ingrained, so some neural pathways that aren't deeply ingrained might just be something that you have learned or been told or believed to be true perhaps recently. What I want to say here is perhaps you can take this on and believe it immediately and it feel really obvious in your body. Or it might be one of those beliefs that are a lot more deeply ingrained, a thought that's deeply ingrained, contrary to this mindset. So it might take a little bit more of repetition. It might take a little bit more of collecting more of the evidence that this is now your new truth in order for you to be able to believe it, in order for your body to get behind this thought and this belief and not call bullshit on it. Interrupting this episode with a freebie for you so that you can create a 5-figure launch whilst prioritizing pleasure without the burnout. Recently, I launched the Pleasurepreneure Mastermind, and 2 out of those 3 weeks of the launch were in school holidays with all 3 kids home with me full time. It was a major oversight, but I went with it. I created 5 figures from that launch, and I wrapped it up feeling excited and inspired and far from depletion. And when my clients started asking questions about how I was able to create that result with so many balls in the air and still feel good and resourced and enjoy the process dripping with children, I gave them my behind the scenes insight. And this is exactly what I have now packaged up and will be sharing with you over 3 days in the Launch Like a Pleasurepreneur Masterclass. We start next week and it's completely free. Head over to reganfig.com/launch or click the link in the show notes. All right, let's get back into it. So what I'm inviting you to do is be open to the idea that this launch is, and I want you to fill in the blank here, right? So I want you to decide ahead of time what this launch is doing for you and your business. And you continue to remind yourself of that and look for the evidence of that as you are launching. For example, this launch is growing my business. This launch is making me money, or this launch is creating future clients, right? There's just some examples there. So what happens here is when we take that thought and we bring it into our body, I want you to feel into that thought, this launch is making me money. What does that feel like in your body? This launch is growing my business. How yum. This launch is creating future clients. What does that feel like in your body? Does it give you butterflies? Does it give you sweaty palm? Does it have you feel excited, jumping up and down? Does it make you feel calm, yes, or a sense of relief, I knew this launch would do that. So I want you to dial into how that feels on a somatic, on a bodily, physical level. What does that feel like for you? That with those thoughts, this launch is growing my business, making me money, creating future clients, or fill in the blank for you. And what happens then is that thought and that combined with that felt sense, it is sending it into the quantum field and drawing that experience to you. It happens in our brain. So if that's too woo-woo for you, no problem. But if we want to go into our brain to what's actually happening within our physical brain and what's physiologically happening for us is our reticular activating system, or our RAS. It's a part of our brain that scans for what we believe to be true about the world. Because if the world as you believed it to be true wasn't reflected back to you, that would be really terrifying. So what this part of our brain does is it filters our world constantly. It is then filtering through all of the data that comes into our brain, which can be anywhere between 2 and 11 million bits of information at a time, down into about 5 chunks, right? Now, it's based on these filters. There's 7 different filters. We don't need to know all of them, but one of them is our beliefs. So what happens is if you believe this launch is growing my business, this launch is making me money, this launch is creating future clients, if that is a thought that you are now ingraining into your mind and a belief you are starting to get behind, your RAS will be scanning constantly your life subconsciously. You don't have to do this consciously. And it will be providing that evidence to you for you to see. So you will start to notice the opportunities. You will start to notice the conversations. You will start to notice, the likes, the comments, the inquiries. You will start to notice how you feel as though you are growing personally in your business. And why that is because you have started to lock that thought into your mind, and therefore your mind is subconsciously 24/7 scanning for that for you and showing you the evidence of that. That's what I want you to go and play with. I want you to get curious, number one, about what is this launch doing for you? Is it growing your business? Is it making you money? Is it creating future clients? Obviously, we want to have thoughts that feel helpful for us, that feel motivating, that feel pleasurable. Yeah. So what are those thoughts? And just keep reminding yourself of that. Instead of having to wait for the next sale or wait for some inquiries to land in your inbox or wait for new people to ask you questions about your offering, for example. Instead of waiting for that to happen to confirm to you that this is an amazing offer and this is a successful launch, you are standing in your power and you are deciding from the beginning that this launch is already creating amazing results that you desire. So, share with me, what is your new thought that you're going to be reminding yourself of and anchoring into? This launch is going to grow my business. Is it this launch is making me money? This launch is creating future clients, or something else? What is this launch doing for you? You can have a much more pleasurable experience of your next launch. I want you to come and join me in my next free masterclass happening next week called Launch Like a Pleasurepreneur. That is all about creating a 5-figure launch without depletion and prioritizing your pleasure. This is one of the ways we do that, by really dialing in on our mindset as well as some of the strategy, which we'll talk about in the masterclass. It's a multi-day masterclass. It's absolutely free, and I am enrolling now. So click the link in the show notes and come and join me.